I would say don't wait. Your future self will thank you more than you know, whether it's 6 months down the road or 3 years down the road.
Hey, how's it going? Delicia Ivins here with the No Pants Project on behalf of Mike Shreeve. And today I'm here with the magnificent Mollie Horne, who is going to talk to us a little bit about her freelancing journey. Mollie, where are you joining us from?
I am joining you from Denver, Colorado.
Okay, so is it really cold there right now? Like really?
No, shockingly, actually, we're supposed to have like a 64-degree day next week, and it's troubling. Yeah, we're lacking on the precipitation front for sure.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that makes sense because you guys, a lot of that snow melt and everything is your precipitation and stuff, right?
Right.
Whoa, that's crazy. So, tell me a little bit about what it is that you do for your clients. What is your superpower?
So my superpower is working with the travel industry, tour operators, um, travel agents, the like, with marketing and communications. So a lot of the business is not focusing on family travel, which is a huge segment, and that's kind of like my pet project. But where I initially had like niched down to that, I've sort of moved back a bit to target the travel industry at a larger scale, and then I can kind of convince them along the way that they need to look at family travel a little bit more.
Most definitely. So, what made you decide family travel? I mean, do you travel a lot yourself?
I do, yeah. I have an 19-month-old now, little girl, and I grew up not doing a ton of travel with my family necessarily, but I was really fortunate to be exposed to a lot of amazing travel while I was in school at university, and that sort of firmly planted the travel bug in me, and I've been kind of on the go ever since. I travel probably 4 to 5 times a year, try to get an international trip in once every year or two. And we actually just did our first trip to the UK. It was our first uh, transatlantic family vacation, and she did really well. So yeah, travel's near and dear to our hearts for fun and the memory making, but also because we feel like it raises good humans, and I want to make my little girl a caring, compassionate global citizen, and I feel like that's an integral part of that.
Most definitely. Now, when you say that you do marketing for the travel industry, can you elaborate a little bit on that? Like, what kind of services do you offer
Sure.
to travel agencies?
Yeah, so right now I'm doing a bit of work with like a luxury safari client, is one of mine, and I'm doing some blog writing for them. I'm helping them with their email newsletters that go out once a month. Just making things like they have good content and a lot of expertise and knowledge, but they don't present it as cleanly and easy to digest for today's internet consumers as they could. So making sure things are, bulleted lists instead of blocks of text, and like that their photos are high quality, and that things are optimized for SEO if at all possible. Elements like that. I'm also, if you are in the No Pants Project or considering the No Pants Project, there's an element that you'll learn about called the omnipresence method. And that's basically like Starbucks' take at being everywhere all the time, the most convenient option, like the one everybody turns to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just about to do a service centered around that for a music tour company. So they do domestic and international tours for school ensembles and like community choirs and church choirs and whatnot. And they're looking to better target the audiences that they're aiming for
Mm-hmm.
via social media. So I'll be doing the omnipresence method for them on Facebook for a couple of weeks to see, what sticks organically, and then kind of niche down and help them drill out some content to the audiences that are really liking what they have to offer, and sort of capitalize on that. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. So that's kind of you're talking about omnipresence, but that's kind of basically you're kind of testing like what content the audience is going to resound with.
Yeah, because I think a lot of anecdotally at least, a lot of the people I talk to have a good idea of who their audience is and definitely know who they want to target, but they may not have a really concrete, data proven view of who actually sees what they post, who interacts with the content they share. And having something that is strategic and measurable, like the omnipresence method, can really help them go, okay, like this is where we're doing well, here's where we need to improve. So
most definitely. So did you know kind of what your superpower would be going into the No Pants project?
I had a pretty good idea that it would be communication centric. Just to give you a little bit of a background on me, my background's in music and theater, so I have degrees in both, and in performance I'm one of those. So I'm a creative, and I'm got a pretty strong doing oriented streak. So like, give me projects, give me feedback, like have me work on something for you, and I'm pretty happy. I also spent a good portion of my 20s working with families and kids as a nanny. So I feel particularly suited to family travel, obviously, but also family travel for clients who are looking for high-end clients in more well-to-do families. And I'm like, wow, okay, I've literally been inside those families and get like how they think and what they're looking for and how they operate. So I knew that that was a skill set that was unique, and that maybe not a lot of people would think to utilize. But I'm glad I thought of that. I'm a helper by nature, so sharing good news, encouraging, empowering, helping equip people with whatever exciting knowledge or tips or breakthroughs I've come across. That's very much the heart of kind of who I am, and I'm really detail oriented, which helps. So I knew my strengths would lie somewhere in communicating valuable things to people who need them, who need help, and it just so happened that travel is something that I love and care a lot about, and care enough about to make it something that I do on a daily basis. So it took a while for me to get around to that. I definitely, you'll hear talk in the probably the open community about people who are struggling with week 2, or had struggled with week 2, but like want to encourage folks who are thinking about joining the program. Like, it's good work, it's hard work to do, but if you push through and sort of do the internal stuff, you will eventually get there and figure out what it is you want to do, and then you can always pivot. So it's good. Nothing is set in stone.
So when you came to your idea of kind of targeting like travel, and then also maybe tying in to that market of like family travel, and the more affluent and everything, was that stuff that you got kind of from the week 2 exercises when you were working through those?
Definitely. There's a lot of list taking and just like flow chart, like brain mapping, just like literally brain vomit all over my page just to figure out what the heck I was doing. I also, don't do this in a vacuum. Don't do it alone. I reached out to good friends of mine to say, hey, okay, like here's some things that I think I'm good at, but what do you see from the outside? What can you tell me about myself that I may take for granted, or not value myself as much as others value of me?
Most definitely. Yeah, I think having that outside influence is key. And that's one of the reasons too that I love kind of just having the group aspect, because even if you tend to be more like, I know some of our people in there are like a little bit more introverted, not as extroverted, maybe we are.
Yeah.
And so they rely a lot, like you see posted, like, okay, out of the homework assignments that I've posted, can some of you guys give me feedback? What do you see could be an opening here for me or something?
So good.
So how is your confidence kind of going into the No Pants project? I mean, you seem pretty confident now about what you do. So what were you thinking when you purchased and you were just getting started?
Yeah. So when I was getting started, I I was thinking about this morning actually. Um, I'm not a terribly desperate person, but leave it to motherhood to just like totally wreak havoc on your mind and your heart. Um, I am pretty sure I found the No Pants Project via a Facebook ad. Um, and I don't know that I was targeted because I was a new mom. I think I might have been targeted because I legitimately was considering like surrogacy as income to like I literally this is
Yeah.
like 2 weeks like 2 weeks after going back to work from maternity leave. I was off for 12, so it was like 14 weeks after having my girl, and I was so desperate to not be with her that I was literally considering like leasing my body, because I had a good pregnancy. I'm a healthy person. Like I had a good labor, and was I think too many people have troubles building families like they would like to, and I thought, okay, well, that's that's a good chunk of change, and maybe I could do this, and it could be like a year of income. I was going there, and that's where my headspace was. I was back to work for 2 weeks and miserable and bored out of my mind and wanted nothing more than to be home with her. And I thankfully found the No Pants Project. And going into it, I watched the webinar, and I'll tell you, I have a pretty strong intuition, and I can smell a scam from a mile away. And I was really, really pleased and surprised to find Mike not at all scammy or sleazy or schmoo as he says. So right out of the gate, I was like, okay, this this seems like it could work. I was ready not to be stuck at my desk for 40 hours a week doing tedious work I didn't care about. I was willing to give it a shot, and I did. Um, I think initially I um, I was a little hesitant to tell people about what I was doing just because it is a little unconventional. And people don't just decide, oh hey, I'm gonna pull a total 180 and do this thing. And like I have friends on the internet helping me, like, really, Molly? Okay.
I
Good
remember
luck
that.
with that. Yeah, it's definitely there's that's like the first mindset shift is this isn't crazy. Like I deserve to give myself a shot at this. Like that alone was a huge hurdle for me. Um, but I did it, and I'm glad I did. And it wasn't all like, puppies and roses to start with. And like I said, especially in week 2, like you do a lot of hard work, and it sometimes takes longer to slog through that than you would like. It certainly did for me. I was like, oh, I started in August. I'm going to be full-time freelancing by Thanksgiving, and that's what I'll be thankful for. Like a year plus later, I'm not, I'm not full-time freelancing, but darn, I'm getting close. So, yeah, there were some hurdles in the beginning, but it's totally worth it. And just the difference that's made in my sense of self and like how I view myself, and the self-talk I give myself is very different now.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think even to speak to that, to like, some people kind of hitting that 90 goal, and some people, even taking longer. Like even for me, it's taking me longer. Like I did
Yeah.
have some really like awesome initial wins, like right out the gate, like within that 90 days. But I'm still trying to build to what my idea
Yeah,
of full-time
definitely.
freelancing is. So everybody has their idea of what they consider
Yeah.
full-time freelancing. So I'm still trying to build to that, and I think it just depends on how far along you are in your own personal journey and what skill sets you had before, and is there a big learning curve? You have to learn a lot of skill sets to get to where you need to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
a lot of that can
I
fall.
I definitely had to build from pretty much the ground up. I'm a very capable writer, and communicating comes easily to me, thankfully, because, I've spent much of my life in front of people. But I didn't have some delicious skill set of, magic that I could just dole out right away. My husband, on the other hand, like motion graphics, editing, videography. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I were my husband.
Right.
But yeah, and that's been the fun thing to see too, is like you see, I've loved charting people who've sort of been in the group as long as I have, like where they started and like where they thought they were going, and then how they've pivoted, and how that's like a totally different outcome than they probably expected for themselves, but it's like totally jamming right now. That's been super fun to see.
So when you mentioned before that you were at a 40-hour-a-week job right after having your daughter, what were you doing at that job? Like what were you doing at a desk?
So administrative assistant, sort of executive assistant stuff, like attending meetings, taking minutes, answering phones, picking up supply deliveries, getting the mail, nothing that was remotely challenging to me or exciting, nothing that fully utilized my skill set. I also didn't feel like I was being challenged at all. Like I didn't feel like management was sort of like leading and mentoring me in a way that I had expected when I started the job. I just felt like it was going to be up to me to like initiate everything and sort of forge my own path. But even that, there's definitely a glass ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that this job had a shelf life, and whether it was the No Pants project or leaving it all together for, another job, I knew I couldn't stick around forever. Like I'm not in it for retirement, that's for sure. And yeah, I don't know how people do it. I really don't. Yeah.
No, I mean, and I think for some people, like it's a really good fit. They like this kind of tasks, but I can definitely see how you being like extroverted and a background in performance, how that would be a little bit tedious for you.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you were working a 40-hour-a-week job, and you've been at that for a couple of weeks, and then you got into the No Pants project. And so now you've been in the No Pants project, what you said, close to a year now?
It's been a year and like 5 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how many clients have you worked with, or when did you get your first client? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my first client was when Mike rolled out the Fast Client Getting Workshop, which is a piece of the program that's like a bonus freebie module. When he rolled that out, I think is when I started, I jumped on board with that right away. And I actually got my first client from the Fast Client Getting Workshop. I hadn't yet gotten to like week 6 and 7 and building my funnel and like doing all of that in the No Pants project modules. So I was more than ready to have a client. I was like, I want this client yesterday. Let's do this. And like I said, I'm a doer. So I'm like, I will put my nose to the grindstone. I don't care how long it takes. Like I will send as many emails as it takes to get somebody to talk to me. And I did. And I got my first client in about April of earlier this year, and did a project for her. She was really like non-communicative, and I actually never heard back from her. I can't get her to answer my emails. So you'll run across one of those every once in a while. It's just sort of like, well, guess I'm going to be ghosted. That's okay. On to the next one. And then I got in touch with a really great company that I have done a little bit of consulting for, but they're newer and they're starting up, and they've got like just enough capital to have things running, but need a little bit more investment to invest in somebody like me. So I haven't done more work with them, but that's definitely a client where I'm like, we've established a relationship. I keep in touch. They like me. I know they will eventually hire me. It's just a matter of when. But really my sort of like, okay, this is all kind of snowballing, came with my second foray back into the fast client getting workshop, because I took a break sort of over the summer to build my funnel and my lighthouse and run my Facebook ads and see if that stuck. And that's actually the point where I realized, I think by niching all the way down to travel businesses who want to target more millennial families, I was like, I think that's a little narrow. I think I need to pull back for a minute. And then maybe when I'm like the person to go for that thing and have, made a name for myself, maybe I can niche back down. But I learned in that process over the summer of doing the incoming traffic kind of thing. I was like, oh, okay, I need to pivot a little bit and reevaluate. And that's when I went back to the Mike's Fast Client Getting Workshop and was like, okay, I'm going to talk to all kinds of people in travel. I'm talking to outfitters in Alaska and cruise operators and travel agents and safari specialists, and just see what sticks. And that worked. I have the safari client that I'm working with right now. I've got the music tour company, and then there's another one I'm like this close to onboarding. I just have to get her to commit. She specializes in vacations and travel like with a conscience and sort of like conservation minded, specifically for families. So lucky, there's a client who is like very firmly in my niche, and I'm excited to work with her. But I don't at all mind working with the others. I actually targeting music tour operators hadn't even hit my radar until about a month ago. And I was like, wait, I went on tours with my choir. Like I've been there as a recipient of that service, and I'm now on the other side, like helping you market it. Maybe I should reach out to those folks. And I did, and it worked. So yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so tell me a little bit about maybe some struggles that you had when you were in the program. Like, did you struggle with trying to figure out your superpower, or were there any worksheets, or just trying to connect the dots, or finding time to work on the assignments? Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, I think time was definitely a concern because I was working a 40-hour job and had a new baby. My husband travels about half time for work. He's also a freelancer. So when he was on the road and I was doing work and daycare pickup and drop off, and it's just, there was a lot. And finding time was a concern. It actually, before I purchased the program, I emailed Mike to say, will this work for someone with as limited time as I have? And he's like, yeah, you're not going to get through it as quickly, but like you can do this. And he was right. So yeah, having enough time was definitely a challenge. I touched on this before, but getting myself into too narrow a niche, targeting folks who want to talk to millennial families specifically, was something that I can pursue again in the future. But I had to back up from that, and I'm glad I realized that when I did. I also had some concerns about Facebook ad spend, and I was nervous about hemorrhaging money, and so I did my big first Facebook ad campaign over the summer when I built my funnel, and that's great, and I got some valuable information from that. But that was always in the back of my mind, like, don't spend money you don't have, don't spend money you don't have. But as soon as you turn that first client or two, you're like, oh, I have money to reinvest. So if you can just push through to that first one or two, it takes a load off. If you can just kind of retrain your brain there. I was definitely frustrated at how long everything was taking me. I always want to move at a faster pace. I can be patient when required, but generally speaking, I'm a very impatient person, and I'm like, I want it now. I want it yesterday. I want it perfect. I'm a perfectionist. This is also a problem because that makes my processes slower. I'm
Mhm.
also like very by the book. So it's like, well, the worksheet says to do this and Mike said to do it this way in the training, but like, I would get in my own way with like feeling like everything had to be just so before I could move on to the next thing. And time again, especially in the Facebook group, people are like, take a breath, keep going. You can always circle back around and edit and, rework your way through that lesson. Not everything has to be perfect or 100% complete, all your I's dotted and T's crossed. It's okay.
Mhm.
So that was hard for me to sort of, that was a hurdle for me. And my self-talk was garbage. I started worrying I would never make this happen for myself, and that I would let myself down, especially as a mom, because one of my biggest motivations for doing all of this is because I wanted more freedom in my life. I wanted a lifestyle where I could, be the mom and do it how I wanted, and not have anybody telling me that I had to be chained to my desk for 40 hours a week. And yeah, I had several points where I got really down on myself. I her birthday's in May, and about late March, early April of this year, I just like totally face planted in anxiety and depression. It was just a hot mess because I was like, I'm failing, this isn't working, like and I got myself all like psyched out and freaked out. And I don't remember what the pivot was, but I was finally like, okay, you know what to do, like take a deep breath and do the work and keep moving, because momentum is like 99% of the juju you need to get through this. It's like if you can literally keep doing one more thing every day, you will make progress. It's sitting back and saying, oh well, this isn't working, that gets you stuck. Because well, yeah, if you're not taking a chance on yourself, and if you're not making daily steps of progress, yeah, you'll fall in a hole too. But climb out and start again.
Most definitely. You know what's crazy is that, and I think it's harder for people who really have an academic background, some of the worksheets, because you see
Oh
people,
yeah,
I mean, they just get there like, I don't know if I did this 100% right. Like, did
it
I?
doesn't match the template.
I know, it's freaking out. And I get it. I
Yeah,
get it, because I did the same
yeah.
thing at first. And what I found is helpful is, like I was explaining to one person in the group, I was like, look, do you remember in high school math when you would have a test, right? And like problem number 3, you did not know the answer to, and you would just freak out and stare at it. But then you would go to problem number 4, and part of the answer to problem number 3 was in
Would
problem
be
number 4. You got if you just keep
so
going,
true.
like just keep
So
up the
true.
momentum, and all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, it makes sense. I can go back and fill in the gaps. Got
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny how that works. And I think the program's pretty thorough, but like if you get hung up somewhere, if something doesn't click right away for you, then just kind of ease into the next one, and then that'll give you some pieces to kind of look at the pieces
Yeah,
for that.
for sure.
So that's super funny, because I know I did the same thing. So tell me about the high points. So I know like over the summer, and testing that and getting your funnel up and everything, and kind of testing that like, targeted kind of niche, like that was a little hard, and I totally empathize with that because I did the same thing.
Yeah.
So, everybody's got to do it. You got to fall forward, fail forward. So coming out of that and like getting to the point where you are now, tell me a little bit about that process, and like what were some of the high points, and you were like, oh.
Yeah. So definitely pushing through the early and then intermittent ongoing muck of my negative self-talk and like mindset issues, like just continuing to resist that, and to try to not succumb to that. That process has been really great, because it's made me a better human and more content with myself, which is good. doing the work, like I said, pivoting back to the fast client getting workshop for the second time and getting results was amazing. My first $1,000 plus invoice felt like I freaking won the lottery. It was so wonderful. I was like, wow. I mean, like, yeah, I had to work to get here, but really, like, once you can kind of navigate your way around and you know what sticks and what works and how to talk to people and how to help them and get them to understand that, like, they have a need that you can help with, it's really not like rocket science. And, you know, we're not saying money grows on trees and I can, like, you know, print a year's income in a month, but like I can definitely make this happen. And like this is not a one-off. It's not a fluke that that people see me and are interested in my work and will pay me. People will continue to do that if I continue to put myself out there. So that's awesome. Watching my husband's excitement for me kind of grow over time has been really cool, because he too is also a pretty healthy skeptic, and not being in the program, you know, he was sort of seeing everything from the periphery and only getting like what I shared with him. So it took a little bit longer for him to go, oh yeah, like this is cool and this is working for you, awesome. That's been super exciting, because, you know, everybody needs somebody in their corner. And another cool perk with him being a freelancer as well and doing video work, I was actually able with my Safari client to land him a little video job with them. So just bringing him on board and being sort of like a mini agency, you know, and establishing a relationship between the two of them that will hopefully yield more work for him as well, was really cool. So yeah, lots of little and big wins, but just the overall sense of this is really going somewhere and I have momentum to build on. And, you know, foolish me if I just decide to sit down and not do any more work because I've got a good thing going.
You're a mom, so I can totally be like, just keep swimming, just keep swimming.
I love Tori.
You'll get that. For those of you who aren't moms, just watch Finding Dory and Nemo. You'll be fine. So how would you feel about your future now? I mean, you've kind of got some things that are going, some things that are yielding some concrete results, but you've also kind of got these kind of things that aren't, I wouldn't say they're not concrete, but they're definitely from what, like the world of like 9 to 5, 40-hour a week, you know, those people like head down, do this work, get the retirement plan, like that kind of idea of concrete. You've got a husband that's a freelancer, and now you yourself are a freelancer. And how does that kind of play into your perception of how your future looks and what you guys are looking at and how you're planning for your future?
Yeah, definitely. So I do feel like I'm finally at the point, thank God, where my 2 weeks notice is like within sight. It's pretty far off there, but like by the spring, I think I will be able to just say, all right, I'm done. And I'm feeling like I said before, I'm the only person who can get my own way, you know, that I just need to keep building on this and moving, and good things will come. I'm not going to say like the possibilities are truly endless, but you know, it definitely looks a lot like that from where I stand, which is so cool. And I would not have said that a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago, I thought, like many people do, like, oh, well, freelancers have X skill set, like my husband. Like, well, I can't do that, so I'm not the freelancer type. Now I'm like, shoot, we can both be freelancers. Yeah, there's definitely a few things you have to negotiate, because once I leave my job, we will not have sponsored health insurance or life insurance or short-term disability or long-term disability, or, you know, all of the myriad things that come with your secure job. But we know in advance what it's going to take, and we know what, you know, purchasing those things for ourselves is going to require. So we're able to plan the budget accordingly. So I know once I hit, you know, X dollars a month regular income, that's pretty much my break-even point, and then everything after that is gravy. So yeah, we definitely have had to look at um, finances and make those calls as judiciously and patiently as we can. But it's coming together, and it will happen. So
So
I'm
just
super
because
excited.
it's been, so we're, it's kind of, well, I won't say it's my fault, but kind of, but I'm trying to get him into freelancing. So it's kind of fun because I'm getting to help
Hmm.
him, like, build his business and do all that. So he's
Yeah.
do it with me being the lead and me trying to help, like, set up his LinkedIn and, like, set up, like, teach him how to do some cold emails and how to do outreach and stuff and how to position himself and whatever. And
Hmm.
for me, it's kind of fun because I don't know, like when we first got married, we were off on this adventure together. Like we were learning about ourselves. We were learning about,
Yeah.
us as like who we were individually and how we work together as a couple. And then through like freelancing, it's kind of the same thing. Like we're having to learn how all this works together. It's kind of a whole new couple adventure, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
So with your superpower and with what you've learned through empathy, like what would be your like top 2 or 3 tips that you would give to someone who is considering freelancing or getting into freelancing or something along those lines?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is if you have you have monkey brain issues like I do, put things out on paper. Or an app. There's a website called mindmeister.com that is a mind mapping website, and it's beautiful and magical, and I can literally get out all of the things that I'm thinking about, the ideas that I have, like all of the stuff that would usually clang around in my brain and stress me to the max. I can get that out and have something that is a like visual plan that's digestible piece by piece. That helps a lot. Um, I would say just in general with the work you're doing in No Pants Project, like take things one at a time. Don't bite off the whole pizza. Um, take a bite at a time. You'll be fine. And there's a coach in the program who says done beats perfect. Totally true. Nothing has to be perfect in the work you're doing for yourself or the work you're doing for clients or to market yourself. Consistency and doing the work beats perfect work. Email consistently, be present on social media, which by the way isn't dead, contrary to popular belief. It's still there. So yeah, do the work. Don't feel like it has to be perfect. And another thing, like for me specifically and the folks that I'm working with, I think a lot of people are good communicators and writers, and they don't value that enough. You have to remember, not everyone can write or wants to write or wants to take the time to write or communicate whatever platform that might be. So don't devalue that skill set. If that comes easy to you, there are 10 people in line behind you for whom that is a struggle or a pain in the butt, and you can do it for them, and they would be happy to pay you for it. So don't take your skills for granted, for sure.
Most definitely. Okay, so tell me, like, maybe for those who are watching, maybe some breakthroughs or like a really cool tactic or a strategy that you have found that really helps you as a freelancer and kind of getting it all together.
Yeah, definitely pivoting from the No Pants Project to the Fast Client Getting Workshop can be a really good tactic if you're just eager to get some more results quicker, or if you want to have a good testing ground for several ideas. I know for a little while I was tossing around the idea of doing stuff more focused on food and what was this? Food, travel, and and then sort of like working with nonprofits, which would not have been very lucrative, much as they're awesome. Working with nonprofits and sort of like folks serving families and disenfranchised groups. So I could have very early on, if the Fast Client Getting Workshop had been an option at that point, tested each of those markets and just cold called contacts in those industries to see what would stick. I happened to have already sort of decided on travel when I was doing that, but even then, like I said, it helped to figure out, okay, I need to zoom out and look at a broader audience. But if you're equally interested and curious in working with 2 or 3 totally different markets, the Fast Client Getting Workshop is a great place to test that. And you like no skin in the game except for your time and some emails. You're not running Facebook ads and spending money that you may or may not have. Literally, like if you can just send 10 or 20 or 30 emails a day, and they can be templated, it's okay. They don't have to be super personalized. I know that sounds scary. Just a few emails a day can get you tangible results as far as deciding where you want your superpower to be. And I think another thing for me that really helped was realizing all of the support that I had in the group and in the coaches in particular, having the Q&As to listen in on, and just like learning from other people who were asking questions that I wouldn't have thought to ask, but in observing, oh my gosh, I learned so much. But having a place where I knew I could post questions or share work and say, okay guys, am I on the right track? Am I totally off base? Just having that sounding board was a huge piece of building my business and getting from where I was to where I am, and feeling like, yeah, this is something that I've built. It's a real thing. It's doing something. I'm accomplishing goals right and left. That's all very much thanks to the support that I had. So don't do this in a vacuum. If I can tell you like one thing, I'm sure there are plenty of programs out there that you can, purchase some worksheets or templates or videos or whatever and like watch it, and bada bing, bada boom, you're supposed to like have this new life, and that's all fine and dandy. But if you don't have people to share it with and people to like work through it with, you will not get the same results. And I don't have any prior experience to tell you that, but I'm just telling you now, like I have gotten at least 20 times my investment in the program from the work that I've done in the last year and a half, and that's because of the people who give back and consistently give back. So don't do it by yourself.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And I think that's why the coaching aspect is, and like the Facebook group and everything was so key. Like that was why I joined, was because it's like when I was looking at programs, I looked at about 5 or 6 different programs that were all kind of like, learn this thing, learn this skill, have your own business, whatever.
Right.
And Mike's webinar was like one of the first ones where it was like, okay, but what if I get stuck? They're like, oh no, there's coaches, there's an accountability person, we have this Facebook support group, I'll be doing Q&As. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, I can handle it. Like, because I know me, like it wasn't my thing. Like in the program, it was my confidence in myself. For me, it was like, I am probably going to get stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
So for those people who are considering looking at the No Pants program right now, what would you say to them? Like maybe they're in the open community, or maybe they've watched the webinar, but they're not really sure. They're kind of reading through the blogs, trying to figure out if it's legit, if it's real, if it'll work for them.
Yeah. I would say don't wait. Your future self will thank you more than you know, whether it's 6 months down the road or 3 years down the road. This is the part where I cry. I know. I mean, obviously, I'm coming at it very clearly from the angle of a mom who just wants to be with her kid more. But you need to know that, like, right now, you're doing an amazing job. Don't feel guilty for trying something and for not getting it right the first time. There's more than one way to skin a cat. And don't be afraid to ask for help. ask for loads of help. There are plenty of people who want to give it to you, and this program and this group is the best place I can think of to get the help you need and deserve to make a really massive shift in your life. I'm not the same person I was a year and a half ago, and I'm so glad, because she was feeling pretty helpless in the midst of being like totally elated mom. Just feeling like, okay, there's definitely a ceiling here, and I don't know where to go. And a lot of that was due in part to my feeling like I had to hold up my end of the bargain with finances and keeping us stable, because with my husband freelancing, like I said, insurance and stuff was my responsibility, and I felt like I couldn't walk away from that without endangering my family. And to have somebody say, no, like, there's another way to do this, and here's the path. Let me like walk with you on it. Yeah, that's been a life changer. And I know that's a big statement to make, but it has changed my life totally. So.
I'm sorry. I'm trying not to talk. I knew it was gonna happen, Mollie.
I know. Sorry, I told you.
Oh.
Yeah. So thanks, guys.
I know. No, you. Like, one of my favorite things about doing these, and like for me, why it's such an honor for me to be able to do these is that I get to see everybody doing the work in the group, and they help me as I build my business, and I get to help them as they build theirs, and everybody's helping each other. And then, when I get to see somebody just one-on-one and see them, I mean, as close to live as we can be, but just, I don't know, it's just so much more personal. And I'm so proud of you, because I know that you've put in the work, and I've watched you put in the work, and you and so many other students and stuff in MPP, like, there are some people who they have kind of a key skill set, and they kind of already have an audience, and they've kind of already been building their freelance business, but they just don't know how to go full time. And those people, like, they skyrocket, they get it, they're out in 90 days, they're good. But then there are some people who are like starting from the ground up. Like, we didn't know we had another option. And it takes us a little longer, but that's okay, because, we're the strivers, and we're going to get it. And when we get it, it's going to be freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited for you, because I know I've been watching you and seeing how much you've been striving. And like, I see like you're on the precipice of this kind of great awakening of Mollie Horne, and it's super fun to watch. So I love watching people blossom.
Me too.
So Mollie, you're amazing, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day to kind of hang out with me, and for making my mascara run lunchtime. So awesome on that. But I look forward to seeing you in the group later, and I'm super excited. I'm going to get this over to the team, because I'd love to get this up soon. I want to make sure that everybody can get the amount of encouragement that I got just from having this time with you, that they can get that, and they can feel that, and they know that they don't have to be stuck. They don't have to have a ceiling, that they can take what, the skills that they have, and the abilities that they have, and the gifts and the experiences they have, and they can create a lifestyle where they help people and serve people just like you do now.
Amen.
You're awesome. All right, I will see you in the Facebook group. Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.